So welcome everybody to a roundtable, our innovation roundtable, How We Did It. It's a roundtable with senior executives to gain insight into how they have addressed innovation, best practices, challenges, and getting it right. My name is Anino Emuwa. I'm an international management consultant and the founder and managing director of Avondis Consulting in France. We are a strategy and advisory firm. I also convene communities of women CEOs, and I'm an international speaker on innovation, entrepreneurship, and gender diversity in leadership. And I have with us 4 fantastic panelists, leaders in innovation and technology. And I think I will do them justice if I let them introduce themselves, but I shall just give a brief introduction to them, okay? So we have Anna Ekeledo, and Anna is the Executive Director of AfriLabs, which is a network organization of 225 technology innovation hubs across 47 African countries. She's a member of the Presidential Advisory Council on Technology and Creativity, led by the Vice President of Nigeria. Then we have with us Lawrence, who serves as the Chief Technology Officer for the City of Toronto. He provides the vision and leadership for developing, implementing, and innovating best-in-class technology solutions to enable the goals of the City of Toronto. We have next Neil Crockett. Neil is a non-executive director and board advisor for Monolith AI. He has extensive experience as a top executive in digital innovation and transformation. He was the former chief digital officer for Rolls-Royce and was named as one of the top global 150 business transformation executives in 2018 by Constellation. And then we have Hugues De Pra, who is the chief technology and transformation officer of Cisco in Belgium and Luxembourg. His role involves articulating the technical and digital transformation plan for Cisco, leading and managing the data center sales and pre-sales operations. He has organized and contributed to several innovation initiatives like the Cisco Innovation Challenge, Cisco Hack for Good, and Hack the Crisis. So here we are with our innovation and technology specialists. Now, a little bit of background. COVID-19 has brought an acceleration in digital transformation, underscoring the importance of technological innovation, empowering our world today, and which is shaping our lives. I have these 4 leaders in technology from North Africa, from North America, from Europe and Africa, and we will hear from them their experience in leading digital technology and innovation projects, best practices, and challenges. We don't have very much time, and we want to get the best from our panelists. So I would like to start on the question of innovation. And with this question, our panelists will get a chance to talk to us about what it is they do. Okay. So you have all been responsible for large-scale innovation projects within your organizations, in the government, or in the innovation sector. As leaders in innovation, can you tell us your story? And I'd like to start with Lawrence on this question. We'd love to hear your story as a leader in innovation.
Yes, and thank you, everybody. It's great to be on this panel. I think as a leader in innovation, it's really about, from a public service standpoint, ensuring the innovation meets the community and what the community is going to realize from that. So whether it's using machine learning, artificial intelligence to try to be prescriptive in terms of where we build social housing, where we try to understand and use the data to understand the root cause of why people are homeless. So that's really a very big initiative in terms of innovation that we've been conducting. And it's about the public good, ensuring that we're equitable. So the ability to use the information and ensure that the data and the technology is delivering a citizen and a resident experience in an accelerated time is definitely some of the innovation that I've been involved with over the past few weeks, especially in COVID, but through the time that I've been in the public service working in the City of Toronto.
Thank you very much for that, Lawrence. And I think that's really interesting when we talk about innovations like artificial intelligence and applying them into the domain of the public sector, because very often when we talk about technology, we don't often hear of the users using it in terms of the public domain. And thank you very much for that. And we will be hearing a little bit more about that in the next question. Then I'd like to turn to Anna. One same question. As a leader in innovation, can you tell us a little bit about your story in innovation in Africa?
Yeah, thank you, Anino. Yeah, so basically over the past 10 years, and this is just brief background, I've been mainly involved in leading business units or Pan-African organizations, as where I am now at AfriLabs. To basically build business or community models around the digital economy across various sectors. But right now, I would say at AfriLabs, with my role, I'm currently focused on leading the organization to support technology and innovation hubs across Africa to build successful businesses that would stimulate economic growth and social development in Africa. Two of our major programs, among many, but because of time, I'll just focus on two. Which we're currently running is our AfriLabs capacity building program. And this is focused on building the capacity of hubs to better support tech entrepreneurs on the continent, to build successful businesses, create jobs, create wealth, and also run sustainably. And another is Catalyst. So with our experience in the innovation ecosystem, we've seen a wide gap in funding for tech startups. And what we're doing is partnering with the Africa Business Angel Network to build a model called Catalyst, which will match early stage, which will connect entrepreneurs within our network with early stage investors, and then match whatever early stage investment has been done into a tech startup. And all these will be facilitated through a technology platform which we're currently developing. So that's speak more about our work in the innovation ecosystem. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Anna. And I think what is particularly interesting about what you've said is when we're looking at innovation, and very often there's the focus on the individual organization, but what you're doing is actually operating as a kind of a catalyst, an enabler, really, an enabler for innovation across the continent, working with the hubs that are that are birthing, shall we say, these innovative ventures. And I think that's quite interesting to explore in the next question and see how that works, because you certainly have a view across Africa, working in 47, which is almost all the countries on the continent, and seeing the differences and what can be done. And of course, you've talked about funding as well. So we move to Neil. Neil, now you have worked as the CDO of Rolls-Royce, and you are on the board of several companies, and I think you're an advisor in the AI. Can you tell us a little bit about your work as a leader in innovation and your story?
Okay, so really, I think my way I look at it is that our job and our careers, and certainly in digital, is to enable the acceleration of new thinking on what's possible. And we used to have a saying in Cisco we coined around the Olympic Games legacy was, it's not what you make, it's what you make possible. And I think that's actually really what we've always got to be thinking about as we do this. And I've actually worked in trying to accelerate that new thinking using digital in 4 contexts. One was at Cisco, particularly at the end of my time in Cisco around the Olympic Games legacy in London. Then as the sort of founder and leader of one of the UK's government's national innovation agencies, the Digital Catapult, and then as the CDO of Rolls-Royce, which is a very large corporation, which gave me the chance to get inside a real customer and try and see what it's like in a sort of a more traditional industry trying to do that. And then most recently in Barnardo's, the biggest children's charity in the UK. I'm a trustee there, particularly focused on using digital innovation to get insight on children and emerging trends. So, those are the 4 areas. But I think it's about accelerating new thinking on how we solve problems and get opportunities.
Thank you, Neil. I've heard that very often when specialists in technology talk about solving problems, and that's critical to technology. And I think what is also quite fascinating about your experience is that in terms of digital technology, you have looked at it across from industry, Rolls-Royce, into technology itself, Cisco, and now into the not-for-profit as well. So I think that's really quite interesting for us to look at, at the next question and see what the differences are. Now we move to Hugues. Hugues, your own experience as a leader in innovation and running large-scale projects. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Thank you for inviting me to the panel. So my story started with a passion for innovation and people. So at a certain moment in time, I've been able to meet an innovation agency. And I was thinking about how in a sales organization could we use innovation to make a difference. So basically to focus on value creation, of course, for the companies. And at the same time, how can we use this to have an impact on society? So really flipping, working on the two sides of the coin. And we started with a strong vision, which is that to see that innovation should be seen as a new toolkit, as a new skill set for any of our employees. So basically, we shape a program called the Cisco Innovation Studio, where we transform in 6 months volunteers, so employees who are volunteers, into hackathon coaches. So they develop specific skills using design thinking, collective intelligence, so that they will be able to interact differently all around them. So of course, with customers, partners, and other employees, they will be able also to use those skills into generic problem solving situation. So this is what we did with the Hack for Good, where basically we work with NGOs, local NGOs, by saying, if we work together, we will be able to make your dream a reality. And we have been able to do that several times. And this is really what passionates me about innovation. So really focusing on skills and people to make a difference that lasts and can have a big impact.
Thank you, Hugues. And I think that just before we move on to our next question, what we have seen here is the use of digital innovation across industry, public sector, private sector, not-for-profits, in terms of hubs across the continent. And some of the themes coming out, one is the importance of skills, problem solving. And I think that if we put all of this together, that leads us quite nicely to our next question, which is creating an innovation ecosystem. Of course, we know how critical and key innovation in technology is, and we've seen it, all of us, through this crisis, tech or non-tech. Now, we're talking about creating that innovation ecosystem, which touches everybody, all sectors. And I'd like to ask you, from your experiences, what can you tell us are the best practices for creating an innovation culture, and also pitfalls to avoid? So whether it is from your experience or case studies, or whether it's just generally, it would be wonderful to hear a little bit, about all of that. So just taking a random, I see Anna before me, okay? Anna, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, this is one of my favorite topics
Okay.
to speak on. Absolutely. So I'll start with best practices. So basically, when we started in 2011, almost 10 years ago, we started with 5 innovation hub members across 4 African countries. And at that time, we started out to build a community of hubs who would share knowledge, come together, work on projects, and host events to basically support tech startups. What we found over time, though, and as we've grown as an organization and as hubs, is the need to work with various stakeholders across the continent. So I would say an ecosystem collaborative approach. And we're looking at, when we talk about stakeholders in the innovation ecosystem, we're talking about government, working with government to create an enabling business environment, academia for the talent pipeline, research and development, private institutional and development investors for startup funding and investments, corporate organizations for access to markets and to promote open innovation, as well as other stakeholders that are invested in building innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. And all this basically contributes to creating an innovation culture. which would drive innovation, the innovation economy and entrepreneurship growth on the continent. Pitfall, doing it alone. That is hard to build an innovation culture just as in an individual organization or an individual stakeholder per se. There has to be that collaboration and shared visions to just all move towards building the innovation culture and economy.
Lovely, thank you, Anna. Before we move on, I know that one of our panelists has to go to another session.
It's me.
It's you. And, okay, are you off now, or can you answer this before you go?
I can answer this before I go, definitely.
Lovely, that would be perfect. Thank you.
What a big question. First of all, I agree with everything Anna said. I think this is the heart of it. This is the heart of the matter, isn't it? So I always think of this as being a paradox mindset challenge. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking about governments or big companies or whatever. The challenge we all have as we try and build an innovation ecosystem is that you've got to do two things at the same time, which seem counterproductive to each other. One is you've got to make the status quo feel like it owns it and it's top-down control. But at the same time, you've got to create bottom-up enthusiasm and introduce new ways of working, right? And you can't drop either. The mistake is trying to say, I'll just drop either. I'll have my own separate digital team and I'll ignore them, I'll just go on and do it myself. Or I'll just do it top-down, it's easy. The CEO says everyone does it and it's done. I mean, you've got to find a way of having paradoxical cognitive skills to do both things. And it is 90%, in my experience, it's 90% sociology, 10% technology. It's about creating volunteers, not conscripts, etc. So there's too many things to talk about one aspect, but my lessons are, don't create a big master plan. Have a framework which is aligned to the business objectives of the main business, but give people room to work out their own answers to the problems within that framework. You need supportive governance, not judgmental governments. You need to burst your digital bubble. If you've got a digital team, burst it, give it back to the businesses and work it on a federated basis. You've got to make it feel different. You've got to start small. You've got to tell stories. You've got to work out from the first wins you get where the big trends are rather than trying to predetermine it. And you've got to build confidence. You've got to build people willing and able. I mean, I'm particularly fond of building digital academies, which we did in Rolls-Royce, or business universities we're doing in Bernardo's. You've got to make people feel confident so they can be enthusiastic. So, my real belief is it's 90% about creating enthusiasm, bottom up, getting people excited, getting them engaged, but at the same time keeping the status quo leaders feeling that it's within their framework and their direction, and that they've got some control. So in Rolls-Royce, for example, I nearly, to try and solve this, I nearly got a revolt with my own team. But I did say that we would pay for our costs, any costs we had, we would be paid for within 12 months. So I wasn't looking for a long term. I made a rule that nothing counted as a value add unless the CFO of the business has signed it off, right? So I let them feel like they were steering the wheel, but in the meantime, I was trying to create these very, very fast-moving, agile project type initiatives from the bottom up. So you've got to learn how to do that. It's really quite difficult. And you'll know when it's there. You'll get skunk work projects starting, and don't kill them, support them. Go out and help them. They're there because they're enthusiastic. You'll get digital teams who want to compete with you setting up, and welcome them, bring them into the tent. You'll get ecosystem partners like external startups starting to appear. You'll get people writing posts on social media about how great digital is, and you shouldn't try and close them down. I mean, all these things are signs of enthusiasm, and I think that's the real trick. This paradox mindset is really the big thing that you've got to deal with. That's my learning.
Wonderful, Neil. And I think it was nice to have your discussion about creating a sort of innovation culture within an organization. And Anna was talking about the external ecosystem. So that's actually quite interesting. And there are lots of lessons to be learned from both of you. Neil, if you have to leave at any point in time, don't worry, we understand.
I'm sorry to be rude, but I think
Sure.
I was instructed to leave at 5:03 when it is 5:03. So
right.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks. Thank you. And now we move on to Hugues, and then we have Lawrence. And I'd just like to acknowledge, because we have one of our innovation, top innovation women on the continent, Yemi Carey. Yemi, thank you for joining us. Okay. Hugues, over to you now.
I'm on the panel with Neil, so I just have to try to see what you're talking about.
All right. Oh, great. Well, thank you for joining us. Right.
Thank you.
So, Hugues, what are your thoughts about challenges, what to do, what not to do in trying to create this innovative culture, whether within organizations or within the industry?
Yeah, so I will share, my personal experience. Like I told in the first question, my focus is really about on people and skills. So if we are able to transform them into what I call a transform maker or change maker agent, then we can really have an impact that lasts. So my recommendation is really to start with a very strong vision that these employees or these people will really understand and buy, so that they can translate it for themselves. So giving them really a purpose about what innovation means for them and what they can do with it. So it's something that we started with our employees, but then we have been able to onboard customers in a very co-creation way of working, which was, again, very well appreciated. So changing the culture, changing the way we work. And we are doing that now with our partner organization. As you know, at Cisco, more than 90% of the business is done through partners. So it's a true ecosystem. And if we want to have a big impact, we need also to onboard the partners. And they've been able to follow, let's say, the processes that we were putting in place. They've been really attracted, asking for it, and we offer them ways to join the initiative. What is really key also to make it relevant is to focus on the customers. So who is the problem, who is having the problem? It can be, of course, internal customers, but mainly external customers. And if you focus on value creation, then you have the right mindset, the right culture to move forward. Now, a pitfall I've seen and that I've been struggling with is, successful innovation. So it's not because you have found a solution that it will become a reality. And right. I was able to visit some innovation hubs mainly in Europe and even a gigantic one in Paris. And I was shocked to see how many failures there was, how many projects were failing. We know that failing is not a problem. It's good if you are able to restart. But I had the feeling that people would drop quite fast, let's say, the ball, because they were not supported or not seeing, let's say, the effort, the continuous effort you have to go through to bring innovation to life. So my recommendation is really to see innovation not as a moment in a journey, but really something which is a continuous process. It's a mindset, it's a skill set, it's a way of working that will require, resources, new processes, new metrics, people who dare to take risk. And this is, for me, so important to put the right context, the right means in order for these people to be able to go to the end of that innovation process, again, having something tangible that will make impact for their company, their institution, or even for the society.
Thank you very much for that. So back to Neil's point about people being at the heart of innovation and technology. And we are running out of time, but in fact, we have run out of time, but we'll just take Lawrence's final comments. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody who has stayed with us so far. Lawrence, over to you.
Yes, thank you. And just to add to all my colleagues on the panel, it is about the culture and the people and the ability to create an environment where people feel that failure is not a negative aspect, but it's really about the learning journey. I think creating that culture, having leaders that support that, builds to an ecosystem with strong partners who are willing to go on the journey with you. So it's overall about changing a culture and a mindset.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. People again, when we're talking about innovation and technology. Thank you very much, everybody. We've only just scratched the surface of this topic, but I hope that, the insights from our panel at least have stimulated our thoughts in terms of trying to create and being involved in the innovation culture and industry. So thank you, everybody, and it's time for us to go now. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.